Large numbers of zombies converged on Zhang Yi's shelter. Zombies poured out of the fourth life pod at West Mountain Base, moving shakily towards the southeast as if summoned. At that time, in the shelter, Yang Xinxin had a computer on her lap, slowly updating Zhang Yi on the recent situations of several powers. Zhang Yi wasn't too surprised by these developments, but he couldn't understand why the snow worship sect was so eager to grow its followers. Did they not need to provide for their survival? In this snowy apocalypse, ordinary people hardly make useful soldiers or laborers, and are likely to be a burden. Could Yuan Kongye really want to be a savior in the apocalypse? Then, Yang Xinxin calmly explained, it might be a different situation. We are in an apocalypse, and the world's order is facing a reshuffle. This is when some powerful individuals start to show their ambitions. They started by slowly growing through religious faith, allowing them to quickly become the dominant force in Heavenly Sea City without spending a single soldier. Once they grow to a certain extent, they might even infiltrate the three major bases. Some of us could be assimilated. Finally, Yang Xinxin concluded, all this has one reason. The snow worship sect wants to rebuild faith in this chaotic world and make their leader the god of this world. Hearing this, Zhang Yi couldn't help but laugh. He scoffed, that idea is just too naive and ridiculous. Yang Xinxin, with a serious face, told Zhang Yi, don't think it's just a joke. When it comes to life and death, even highly educated and cognizant people might end up kneeling. Zhang Yi gave a slight smile. You make some sense, but times have changed. Even if you have many followers willing to die for you, they stand no chance against modern armed forces. Just relying on numbers to rule the world is nothing but a fantasy. Yang Xinxin looked at Zhang Yi and said, what if their leader could awaken people's special abilities? Don't forget, Yuan Kongye's ability is to bless. Zhang Yi's eyebrows slightly furrowed. The awakening of special abilities is originally a matter of probability. Indeed, having more people can increase the number of mutants, but mutants are just slightly stronger humans. I've seen many mutants, and so far, very few can truly threaten me. There's no need to mythologize them excessively. But then, Yang Xinxin looked at him with adoration and said, the reason you feel this way is because you, big brother, are already so powerful. Zhang Yi knew in his heart that he had devoured many powerful mutants, including Ling Feng, the top fighter from West Mountain Base. He didn't have a clear concept of how strong he was at this point, but he understood that there's always someone stronger. Thinking this, Zhang Yi murmured with a determined look, this snow worship sect indeed needs more attention. While they were talking, a rustling sound from outside caught Zhang Yi's attention. Peering through, he saw thousands of figures appearing in the snowstorm, slowly approaching the shelter. Zhang Yi was stunned, thinking he was seeing things. After all, how could so many people appear at once in such a cold external environment? Even more than the soldiers gathered here during the last battle of the 5 armies. Zhang Yi quickly got up and activated the voice control system, immediately notifying everyone to gear up and prepare for battle. As he spoke, Zhang Yi took out his pistol, eyes fixed on the outside. Yang Xinxin maneuvered her wheelchair to the window and was stunned by the scene. How could there be so many people? Could it be that the other powers have regrouped and are attacking again? After Zhang Yi instructed everyone to prepare for battle, Uncle Yu was the first to arrive in the living room. Zhang Yi picked up a telescope and saw the vaguely discernible zombies outside, which sent a chill down his spine. Due to the extreme cold, the zombies were just covered in blue and purple bruises, without obvious signs of decay. Zhang Yi couldn't help but murmur, it has really turned into a zombie outbreak. Everyone was shocked to hear this. Then, Liang Yu stepped forward, took the telescope, and said, these things couldn't all have crawled out of West Mountain Base, could they? Zhang Yi puzzled, how do you know that? Liang Yu pointed and explained to Zhang Yi, look at the zombie horde, don't some of them still wear the combat uniforms of West Mountain Base? These must be soldiers from West Mountain Base, and the other thousands of bodies should be civilians from the 4th life pod. Zhang Yi was still confused. Under such extreme cold temperatures, how can these bodies not be frozen stiff and still walk like humans? At this point, Yang Xinxin calmly explained, these bodies might be infected with some special virus. They are now just the shells for those parasitic viruses. Zhang Yi accepted this explanation, but regardless of what they are, the first order of business is to go out and clear them. Saying this, Zhang Yi took out a submachine gun and said, remember, when shooting zombies, you have to aim for the head to be effective. At this moment, Lu Karen couldn't help but ask Zhang Yi for a gun to show what she could do. Zhang Yi thought for a moment and handed her a rifle, saying, be careful when firing, make sure not to hurt our own people. Immediately, Lu Karen changed into combat gear and followed the others out of the shelter. As for Flower, Zhang Yi didn't let it come out, mainly because he was afraid it would eat something indiscriminately. Uncle Yu, without a word, grabbed an engineer's shovel and charged forward. Zhang Yi shouted, just fire from a distance. Uncle Yu laughed loudly a few times. No need to waste bullets. Seeing this, Liang Yu also drew his long sword and charged forward. Lu Karen, excited, said to Chunlei, brother Chunlei, how about we compete to see who kills more zombies? Chunlei chuckled, you're definitely going to lose. Saying this, he and Zhang Yi began to fire fiercely at the horde of zombies. But soon, Zhang Yi noticed something was off. Zombies that were clearly shot in the forehead were getting back up. Could it be that they're too frozen, so the bullets didn't penetrate? celebrate? Zhang Yi wondered. Seeing this, Uncle Yu and Liang Yu rushed over and jointly dealt the finishing blow. At the moment this zombie was killed, all the zombies seemed activated, suddenly emitting chilling howls, the sounds akin to wild dogs tearing at rotten flesh. The originally sluggish zombies suddenly moved as fast as hounds, swiftly surrounding Uncle Yu and Liang Yu. The two were surrounded before they could react, with every zombie hungrily opening its mouth and charging at them. These zombies, frozen stiff, made close quarters combat inefficient. Even though he and Liang Yu were both enhanced mutants, the zombies, even when chopped into pieces, still struggled towards them, causing their scalps to tingle. Continuing this way, once they exhausted all their strength, they would inevitably be bitten to death. Originally thought to be as slow as mud and fragile zombies, who knew they could suddenly become so fierce and seemingly difficult to kill completely. A portion of the massive horde of zombies split off and lunged at Zhang Yi and the others. Since they could not kill them all, Zhang Yi simply opened his special dimension and sucked in all the incoming zombies. Chun Lei and Lu Karen finally breathed a sigh of relief, but before they could celebrate for a few seconds, the brainless zombies that rushed into the special dimension suddenly seemed to gain the ability to think and voluntarily stopped. This made Zhang Yi instantly feel that something was unusual. Normally, zombies are just mutated corpses and shouldn't have any intelligence, but these creatures could sense danger and stop, which was completely illogical. At this moment, a thought flashed through Zhang Yi's mind. Could these zombies be remotely controlled by someone? Could it be that someone has awakened an ability to control zombies? This possibility is indeed significant. Nowadays, the manifestations of special abilities are extremely varied, and if such a type of ability truly exists, then all this would make sense. Thinking of this, Zhang Yi suddenly realized, if that's the case, wouldn't this crisis be resolved by just killing the controller among the zombie horde? But with thousands of densely packed zombies in front of him, finding the controller accurately is like finding a needle in a haystack. Therefore, Zhang Yi decided to use a brute force approach. He waved his right hand, and suddenly a huge tank appeared on the snowy ground. As Zhang Yi climbed into the tank, he shouted, "Listen to my command. I'll count to 3, and you jump with all your might." Uncle Yu and Liang Yu immediately understood what Zhang Yi intended to do. With their powerful leap, a loud boom resonated as a shell exploded among the zombie horde, sending limbs and parts flying everywhere. After landing, Uncle Yu and Liang Yu quickly retreated towards the shelter, but the horde of zombies relentlessly pursued them. Seeing that the effect was insufficient, Zhang Yi leaped down from the tank. The moment he landed, he pulled out a specially made flamethrower from his special dimension and aimed it at the zombie horde. Following that, a fire dragon over 10 meters long was unleashed, instantly igniting the zombies' clothes, turning the horde into a sea of flames. Zhang Yi had been worried that the burning zombies might charge at him, but the outcome left him dumbfounded. Thousands of zombies simultaneously turned their heads and fled in the opposite direction of the shelter. This scene was beyond belief. He had never heard of zombies tactically retreating before. It is now certain that these creatures are definitely being controlled by someone. When they realized they couldn't defeat Zhang Yi, they chose to flee to preserve their strength. What would happen if zombies possessed intelligence? Not only could they coordinate with each other, but they could also retreat when overwhelmed. This scene left Zhang Yi and the others utterly astonished. By now, Zhang Yi was almost certain that someone was secretly controlling these bodies. Liang Yu also said, "How powerful must a special ability be to control so many zombies at once? If someone had such a strong power, shouldn't they have already dominated Heavenly Sea City? After all, bodies are the one thing not lacking outside now." Zhang Yi couldn't help but look at the charred bodies on the ground, some of which were still twitching. Just like severed earthworms, they seemed impossible to kill completely. Thinking of facing more of these creatures in the future, Zhang Yi felt a headache coming on. This is just too eerie. If we don't figure out what's going on with these things, Heavenly Sea City might never have peace. While speaking, Zhang Yi reached out to try to absorb the zombie fragments into his special dimension, and the process of actively absorbing them went smoothly. This also means that they indeed do not possess biological characteristics, but how they move in such a way is beyond comprehension. Anyway, it seems that these creatures can be burned to death. Saying this, Zhang Yi handed the flamethrower to Chun Lei and said, "Fatty, burn these things clean." After returning to the shelter, Zhou Qi and Yang Mi were almost scared out of their wits. Yang Mi, holding her chest, said, "Can the dead bodies still come at us and bite? Could there really be ghosts?" Beside her, Zhou Haimei comforted, "It's better to believe in such things and maintain respect." As a veteran actress who has struggled in the entertainment industry for many years, she has always firmly believed in these phenomena. She always felt that many things cannot be clearly explained by science, but do indeed exist. Zhang Yi did not speak. speak but sat on the sofa pondering the zombies from West Mountain Base. The day the three of them entered the base to scavenge for supplies, they actually felt something unusual around them. At the time, they thought it was just psychological and didn't pay much attention, so they sealed the entrance when they left, partly to feel at ease. Moreover, with soldiers disappearing into the subway station in recent days, all signs indicated that someone was behind this. These zombies not only knew to actively avoid my dimensional gate but also knew to flee when they couldn't win, clearly showing the behavior of intelligent beings. Thus, there must be a mutant who can control bodies lurking in the shadows targeting us. Everyone agreed on this. At this point, Jokir raised a question. What's their reason for attacking us then? We haven't offended them. It can't be Radiant Prosperity and Morning Dew. If they had this kind of capability, they would have used it long ago. Why wait until now? Zhang Yi shook his head and said, for now, let's just wait and see. Anyway, those zombies can't possibly breach the shelter. Then, Zhang Yi turned to Yang Xinxin and said, Xinxin, check if there have been similar incidents elsewhere recently, to see if this is just targeting us, or if it's a widespread issue in Heavenly Sea City. He also instructed Uncle Yu and Liang Yu, you two go check your bodies to see if there are any scratches or bites. In case it really is something like a virus, we need to stay vigilant at all times. After speaking, everyone quietly maintained a certain distance from Uncle Yu and Liang Yu, who were somewhat at a loss for words. Then, Zhang Yi called over Jokir, intending for her to study the zombies. He was more concerned about something like a virus. If it really is the so-called zombie virus, this could potentially evolve into a disaster that covers all of Heavenly Sea City, and even spread nationwide or globally. Zhang Yi said with an increasingly serious expression, I need to first confirm whether this thing is caused by a virus or is being controlled by a mutant with special abilities. If it truly is some unknown virus, it could be a catastrophe for the surviving humans. But if it's controlled by someone with abilities, that means there's an unknown and very powerful force still existing in Heavenly Sea City. Jokir said with a worried face, either outcome sounds pretty terrifying. Zhang Yi comforted, there's no need to worry too much. We don't care about what happens in the outside world. We just need to protect ourselves. As long as the shelter can remain safe, we can continue to live well. Zhang Yi walked to the safe, opened his special dimension, and took out a zombie's limb. The severed arm's fingers were still twitching. Even the well-traveled Jokir was stunned. She couldn't help but say, this is simply a medical miracle. Saying this, Jokir put on gloves and began studying the limb. Zhang Yi cautioned, it's still best to take precautions. After all, we don't know how infectious it is. Jokir smiled lightly. Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. Saying that, she skillfully picked up a piece of flesh with tweezers and said, Brother Zhang Yi, you can leave now. I need some time to analyze this slowly. Zhang Yi was not in a hurry. We still have plenty of time, and at this level, we can still handle it easily. Jokir also remarked, it's good that our armed forces are strong enough. If this happened among other forces, especially organizations like the Snow Worship sect, the outcome could be catastrophic. Indeed, that was the case. The Radiant Prosperity base also suffered a massive zombie attack. The soldiers were initially in disarray, but fortunately, Xiao Holian's fire-based special ability naturally countered them. She leaped onto a high tower, and using high-purity alcohol she had drunk, she precisely spewed out a fire dragon at the zombies, burning them instantly into charred remains like an insecticide. Her subordinates kept bringing her large amounts of alcohol, and Xiao Holian had to keep pouring it into her mouth non-stop. It was almost entirely due to her efforts that, after burning countless zombies, they finally managed to fend off this terrifying attack. Xiao Holian jumped down from the tower, looking at her painstakingly managed oil refinery in ruins. She angrily said to her subordinates, hurry up and check out what these things are and who is behind them. At the Morning Dew base, they even deployed military vessels stationed in the deep sea area, using their main guns to counterattack the horde of zombies. Fortunately, the firepower was still fierce, and there were also a significant number of powerful mutants, barely holding off the assault. Wei Dinghai frowned and said, where do these things come from? Are they monsters cultivated by other forces? Or perhaps a previously undiscovered underground force? Meanwhile, at the Snow Worship sect headquarters, a group of followers were eating fruit around a bonfire. At that moment, nobody noticed a large group of figures slowly approaching the Snow Worship sect from the darkness. The guard soldiers thought they were devotees coming to join, but as they got closer, they realized a large number of zombies were heading towards the Snow Worship sect. The soldiers' shouts suddenly pierced the night sky. Monsters! Monsters! The zombies also violently rushed into their camp, crazily biting, and the Snow Worship sect soldiers hurriedly organized a counterattack. But the zombies feared no weapons. Even when shot full of holes, they still crazily pounced to bite the living. The camp was suddenly filled with cries of despair, and with the rapid expansion of the Snow Worship sect, the number of followers had grown to tens of thousands. With such a high population density, they had no space to escape. escape. Desperate cries continually echoed through the camp, scenes of zombies tearing flesh and the sound of gnawing bones were everywhere. The sight was like a living hell. The surviving followers could only run towards the church, with the zombies in relentless pursuit, about to rush into the church. Suddenly, the church doors burst open from the inside, and dozens of zombies at the entrance were blown away several meters. At that moment, the high priest, along with several senior members of the snow worship sect, walked out of the church, furious at the carnage before them. Jing Yixian immediately organized a counterattack, commanding several mutants to guard the church and protect the leader and the followers inside, while all other mutants were to fight their way out. With the involvement of powerful mutants, the battle situation finally began to turn around. The beast-human hybrid ability user, Han Chang, activated his beast transformation state, and in an instant, a dozen cold glimmers flashed, swiftly decapitating dozens of zombie heads, which fell to the ground. Unexpectedly, the decapitated zombies still lunged at him, and Han Chang was shocked. They didn't die even like this. He continued swinging his claws with disgust, saying, "Then I'll just have to completely disable you." With several more flashes of cold light, dozens of zombies were instantly chopped into pieces. Han Chang said with revulsion, "What are these things? They can still move even in pieces." The defense battle was exceptionally tough, with an overwhelming number of zombies. The mutants were only focused on plunging into the zombie crowd to kill frenziedly, hardly having time to protect the other ordinary followers. The battle lasted for 2 hours, and the ground was piled high with bodies, indistinguishable whether they were zombies or followers. Jing Yixian came over to tell Han Chang, "Let's have everyone move the bodies into that abandoned building. Also, check for any injuries. These zombies are too bizarre. I fear it might be some kind of biochemical virus. Everyone involved in the fight must be quarantined and observed for a while, and we also need to step up patrols and guard against more zombie attacks." Han Chang also told Jing Yixian, "These things are unusual. These aren't the brainless zombies from the movies. Not only are they hard to kill, but they also know how to retreat. If this is the work of other forces, I must go and fight them." Now that the snow worship sect has greatly increased its strength, it no longer fears any base organization. Jing Yixian hurriedly advised, "Don't be impulsive. The most important thing now is to protect the followers. We definitely need to investigate this matter thoroughly. We can't yet be sure if it's related to the other forces." Jing Yixian stood in the center of the square, looking into the distance, and murmured softly, "Has a new storm arisen?" Zhang Yi called Xing Tian at the Emerald Waterside base. Hearing this, Xing Tian was incredibly agitated. "No way. We were also attacked by zombies yesterday. It cost us over 100 workers. These unknown monsters, could it be some kind of biochemical crisis?" Hearing that the Emerald Waterside base was also not spared, Zhang Yi breathed a sigh of relief. This meant that the zombie attacks were not solely targeting them. Zhang Yi, frowning, said to his old classmate, "These monsters are strange. They don't die even when beheaded. I suspect someone is manipulating them from behind. But our two locations are over 100 kilometers apart, and we were attacked by zombies at almost the same time. Doesn't this suggest that there's more than one person controlling the zombies?" Xing Tian tapped his forehead. He had always just wanted to live peacefully in his own territory, but why were there always so many troubles? Hearing what Zhang Yi said, Xing Tian somewhat defensively yelled out, "Are you saying there's an organization in Heavenly Sea City that can control zombies? Wouldn't that organization be invincible? After all, Heavenly Sea City now has at least tens of millions of corpses. If they keep attacking us in turns, we can't afford it. Also, even if your shelter is sturdy, it surely can't withstand so many zombies smashing into it every day." Xing Tian's words indeed make sense. We still don't know who the instigator of the zombies is. Enemy hidden, us exposed. This is the situation Zhang Yi least wants to face. Zhang Yi sighed helplessly and said, "Now, we can only leave it to fate. Contact the other groups and see if they've experienced similar attacks." After exchanging information, Zhang Yi fell into deep thought. Sure enough, early the next morning, a large number of zombies attacked again. Zhang Yi didn't hesitate to put on his combat suit and said, "Let's get to work." This time, he even brought Flower, but he repeatedly warned Flower not to bite with her mouth. With the experience from last time, Uncle Yu and Liang Yu did not rush into the horde impulsively. Chun Lei used his ice and snow abilities to restrict the zombies' movements, while Zhang Yi and Uncle Yu attacked the horde with flamethrowers. Liang Yu and Flower were responsible for clearing zombies that tried to get close. With everyone's tacit cooperation, Zhang Yi gradually noticed something. When the zombies were engulfed by Chun Lei's blizzard, they seemed to lose their sense of direction, indicating that there must be a controller among the zombie horde. Shou Kir was also observing the battlefield situation from inside the house. She noted down her observations and murmured, "Just as I suspected, the virus inside the zombies prefers cold and fears heat. When exposed to high temperatures, it becomes inactive, so using fire is the most effective strategy." With the experience from last time, they quickly killed nearly half of the zombies, and the remaining zombies predictably began to retreat. Seeing this, Zhang Yi felt something was not quite right. A sense of unease slowly emerged in his heart. Chun Lei stepped forward and asked, "Boss, what's wrong?" Zhang Yi frowned and said, "Yesterday we dealt with a large number of zombies, but today there are clearly more. This indicates indicates that the zombie virus is still spreading, and more bodies are slowly turning into zombies. If this continues, one day the entire Heavenly Sea City will be filled with zombies. How will we live then? Hearing this, everyone's eyes widened, and a sense of invisible pressure suddenly overwhelmed them. Who is controlling the zombies from behind? What exactly is their scheme? Zhang Yi was already worried that if this trend continues, the entire Heavenly Sea City would soon be overrun by tens of millions of zombies, and then we would no longer be able to move outside. Zhang Yi's words instantly erased the smiles from everyone's faces. Yang Xinxin took a sip of her coffee and said with a worried face, I think it's not necessary to be so pessimistic yet. Things may not develop in that direction. If their goal was really that clear, they wouldn't just send a few thousand zombies each time. Then she shifted the conversation. However, if we don't investigate the true nature of these zombies soon, they will definitely become a huge problem for us. Lu Karen also sighed. It's a pity the temperature is so low now. Otherwise those zombies would have rotted into skeletons long ago. Zhang Yi said sternly, zombies are actually not scary. What we need to worry about is the controller behind them. Those controllers are definitely not brainless monsters, and these zombies are so hard to kill. The only known methods are fire and dismemberment, which puts us in a very passive position. Yang Xinxin immediately understood, so the key is to deal with the controllers behind them first, otherwise we will never have peace. Zhang Yi smiled and said, that's the theory, but finding the controller is easier said than done. Every time we kill more than half, they immediately flee. I can't even be sure that the controller is among the zombies, as the forms of special abilities are too varied to deduce using common sense. We also can't possibly investigate deep inside the subway. It would be too dangerous. As everyone was discussing fervently, Zhou Kier spoke softly. Actually, I've also made a small discovery. In the last few days while studying the zombie limbs, I indeed found something like a virus. This organism is extremely cold resistant, even surviving at -100 degrees. It can invade the host's nervous system to control the body, but it does not belong to the category of viruses in modern biology. Its structure is between a virus and a cell, but its biological characteristics are more similar to a virus. Zhang Yi, confused, said, don't make it so complicated. Say something everyone can understand. Zhou Kier, embarrassed, smiled and said, when the Ice Age apocalypse came, influenced by gamma rays, the entire field of biology was redefined. Let's just call it the zombie virus for now. This zombie virus has a colony-like nature. When zombies are within a horde, they connect with each other. They show a certain pattern in their actions, and can even exhibit a degree of intelligence. But the piece I studied was just a limb, and all its characteristics were significantly weakened. However, based on my assessment, this virus is similar to a biological species. They have a common mother body, and the mother can remotely control them. However, the remote control distance shouldn't be too long. Just like some animals can communicate through sense, these zombie viruses surely have their own unique way of signal interaction. Hearing this, Zhang Yi had an epiphany and said, according to you, if we find and kill the mother body, these zombies will automatically die, right? Although it's still unclear if killing the mother body would cause the other zombies to die, at least it would make them lose their intelligence. Once they become like headless chickens, they'll be much easier for us to deal with. Zhang Yi's words brightened everyone's mood. Isn't this the mystery that's been troubling me? Zhang Yi continued, I think I understand now. The attacks by the hordes these past few days seemed fierce and intelligent, but upon closer observation, their tactics are actually very simple and childish. Both times, after nearly half of the zombies were killed, they chose to retreat, which feels just like a 3-year-old playing a game. Just like a child learning to talk and walk, they are just slowly figuring things out. Everyone felt this made a lot of sense. The horde indeed exhibited some intelligence, but not much. Then Liang Yu spoke, listening to you, I think I understand too. Those zombies may have some intelligence, possibly due to mutations after human death, or the mutant virus took over human bodies. In any case, they have only recently acquired intelligence and are still learning human combat methods. Zhang Yi also felt this was likely the case. Their method of fighting doesn't seem like that of a normal human intelligence, but they are not completely mindless either. If such a thing really exists, it might be called a zombie king. After all, if living organisms can acquire special abilities, then it's not completely impossible for dead ones to do so as well. Zhang Yi spoke in a low tone. If it really is a case of corpses gaining intelligence through mutation, then their attacks will definitely continue. We can also use this opportunity to gather more information. We must not overlook any details to find ways to deal with them. However, our current priority is to clear the nearby hordes of zombies. Otherwise, the hordes will keep coming and harass us, making it hard to ensure there won't be any accidents. Zhang Yi also knew that these zombies are not humans. They do not have a sense of reverence, and they will still come to harass us brainlessly even knowing they can't win. This is undoubtedly like a ticking time bomb. We must solve this problem as soon as possible. At this moment, Liang Yu raised a question. If it really is a case of corpses mutating and gaining intelligence, then how do we explain the zombie hordes at other forces? It surely can't be launching attacks at several major forces at the same time, can it? Yang Xinxin, who had been silent until now, spoke up. It's the subway network. After the apocalypse, no one has ventured into the subway tunnels, which are dozens of meters deep, but it's not hard to know that the temperature underground would be much higher than on the surface. Moreover, our zombies here likely originate from the next channel Garden Station. Heavenly Sea City has more than a dozen subway lines, and zombies could use them to reach any area. Zhang Yi nodded thoughtfully. It seems that the reason why we face smaller hordes is because we are located in the suburbs, and we only have the next channel Garden Station here. Then, Zhang Yi said to Yang Xinxin, continue to monitor the recent situation of the other forces through the network, especially information about zombies. We must find a way to solve this once and for all. As for the other forces, we can only leave it to fate. Their days will definitely not be easy. Although the three major forces all have underground shelters, they all have important surface facilities, such as oil refineries, steel plants, and ports, all of which are essential for their survival. They will inevitably choose to defend these places, which means they will inevitably keep dealing with the zombies. The worst off would probably be the Snow Worship sect. Their living environment offers no defense against zombies, and given their large number of followers, they would inevitably suffer heavy casualties in the event of a zombie attack. The zombie horde came again, but this time it was at midnight. Fortunately, Zhang Yi and his team were prepared and had arranged for people to take turns keeping watch. As soon as they saw the horde approaching, they immediately got ready to meet the battle. Zhang Yi, carrying a flamethrower, cautiously said to the others, this time they've switched to attacking at night, possibly because they think we perform better during the day. And unlike the previous two times, they aren't just rushing at us in groups brainlessly. This time they spread out early on, approaching the shelter like a swarm of insects. It seems like they've really gotten smarter. We had set up a gasoline trap in advance, but now it seems like it won't be as effective. Zhang Yi, observing the zombie horde, said seriously, it seems our analysis was correct. This group of zombies is indeed evolving and has figured out different tactics. Each of their attacks is actually a mission to gather intelligence. Once they grasp all our combat methods, we might end up confined to our shelter. Today I want to confirm my suspicion. None of the zombies that came this time will escape. I want them all eliminated. Saying this, Zhang Yi jumped onto Flower's back, ready to flank from behind. Uncle Yu laughed. Finally, we can have a real fight today. Chun Lei, however, wasn't as enthusiastic. Just a bunch of corpses. What's so thrilling about that? It's not as exciting as playing games in the shelter. Uncle Yu laughed. You can take this chance to practice your abilities. Just as he finished speaking, Chun Lei activated his abilities, instantly freezing the zombie horde in front of him with a blizzard. Seeing the opportunity, Uncle Yu started his flamethrower and sprayed wildly at the horde. Liang Yu, wielding his long sword, darted around the perimeter of the horde like lightning. While the firepower drew their attention, Zhang Yi and Flower quickly moved to cut off the zombies' escape route from the back. Zhang Yi, carrying a gun, fired intensely at the horde, and at that moment, Flower was ready to charge. Zhang Yi smoothly jumped off Flower's back, and then Flower transformed into a giant steel ball, rolling over the zombie horde. Every hair on Flower's body was like a sharp knife, instantly crushing the zombies into pieces. The four people and one beast used guerrilla tactics, surrounding the zombie tide like sheepdogs herding sheep. Zhang Yi continuously observed the condition of the horde, wanting to confirm whether the zombie king was among them or if it was controlling the horde from a farther distance. Sure enough, when a certain number of the horde had fallen, the zombies began to panic and turned around to sprint towards the direction of next channel Garden Station. Zhang Yi, pulling up his gun, sneered, why the hurry to leave after coming all this way? The next second, Flower and Zhang Yi began a frenzied slaughter, and within just a few minutes, the zombies were nearly completely annihilated. Zhang Yi intentionally left one zombie alive and suddenly jammed an infrared camera into its eye socket. Chun Lei, puzzled, asked, boss, do you have some kind of clever plan? Zhang Yi confidently crossed his arms and said, in today's battle, I realized that the so-called zombie king is not among the horde. These zombies were sent only to gather our intelligence and then report back to the zombie king. Once the zombie king has mastered enough combat techniques, the Real army will probably come. Zhang Yi's eyes started to look sinister, so I decided to turn the tables and take the initiative. Liang Yu then asked, do you mean we should take the offensive, scout out the depths of the subway, and then wipe out the zombies' lair in one fell swoop? Zhang Yi said, the best defense is a good offense. We need to strike first. Considering the attack patterns of these three zombie waves, they are indeed continuously evolving and changing. If we keep dragging this out, I'm afraid they will find our weaknesses. We can't afford that risk. After speaking, Zhang Yi kicked the zombie away, and it quickly got up and ran towards the direction of the subway station without looking back. Zhang Yi and the others watched as the zombie carrying the infrared camera left. Now let's see how much useful information this little brother can bring us. After returning inside, Zhang Yi and the others began to draft a detailed battle plan. Zhang Yi immediately turned on the monitor, and the other end of the infrared probe displayed a horrifying scene. The subway station was densely packed with zombies. The dark view hardly showed any human figures, just a sea of crimson eyes everywhere. Chun Lei, frightened, felt a chill on his scalp. That's way too many. Uncle Yu, however, was unfazed and said, that's pretty normal. Think about how many people have died in Heavenly Sea City. At least close to 20 million, right? As soon as he finished speaking, Chun-Lei immediately hugged himself, like a delicate 300-pound girl. No way. Are we going to turn into zombies too? Yang Xinxin explained from the side. Turning into a zombie requires the spread of the virus. It shouldn't happen in the short term, but if enough time passes, it's hard to say. Zhang Yi helplessly smiled and said, with over 10 million corpses in Heavenly Sea City, it's impossible for us to preemptively deal with all of them. As long as there are corpses, there's the possibility of them turning into zombies, so we need to solve this from the source. We must quickly eliminate the mother zombie king, otherwise, the trouble will only get bigger. Just then, a distinctly larger heat source appeared on the screen. It looked like a human but was taller and thinner, probably about 3 meters tall. While still in shock, a pair of crimson eyes came close to the camera, revealing an eerily strange smile. Everyone was startled by this sudden appearance. Zhang Yi stood up abruptly and shouted, to be discovered so easily. A few seconds later, Zhang Yi laughed again and said, but it wasn't all for nothing. At least we know now where the zombie king is. That blue face is very likely the zombie king. We must eliminate it quickly, or we will never have peace. At that moment, Chun-Lei came over and asked, boss, you're not planning to just go there and fight, are you? It's so dark there, and there are so many zombies. We simply can't kill them all. Yang Xinxin also added, and the subway network is extensive. If the zombie king senses danger, it will definitely choose to flee immediately. Zhang Yi, with his arms crossed and in a grave tone, said, if we're going to do this, it must be once and for all. But if we go down there, we really need to figure out a way to prevent them from escaping. At that moment, Liang Yu said, we can start at Song Village Station, destroy it first, so we can cut off their escape route. Our target is to kill the zombie king. As long as it doesn't escape, that's enough. As for the other lesser zombies, we have plenty of time to deal with them. Uncle Yu, eager for action, said, Zhang Yi, when do we start? You need to make the final decision, but it looks like this battle is inevitable. I think a quick resolution is best, to avoid prolonged trouble. Zhang Yi took a deep breath, thought for 2 minutes, and then said with a firm tone, get ready immediately. We act tomorrow. Everyone nodded in agreement, with no objections, except Chun-Lei, who looked worried and asked, boss, isn't tomorrow a bit rushed? This isn't like your style. What if there are unknown complications underground? Maybe we've underestimated the zombies' combat capabilities, or perhaps there's more than one zombie king. Chun-Lei has always prioritized safety first, often even more cautious than Zhang Yi. However, while Zhang Yi is cautious, Chun-Lei is overtly fearful. Zhang Yi smiled mysteriously and said, don't worry, fatty. When have I, Zhang Yi, ever fought a battle I wasn't sure of? I've prepared thoroughly. I would never joke with everyone's lives. Hearing Zhang Yi say this, Chun-Lei was considerably reassured, but he still sneakily looked at Zhang Yi and asked with a grin, boss, if you have any clever plan, why not just tell everyone? It would give everyone some peace of mind. Why make it all so mysterious? Zhang Yi patted his chest and said to everyone, you just need to know that even if we encounter the most dangerous situation, I have a way to get us all out safely. As for the details, let's not talk about them for now. Liang Yu glanced at Zhang Yi and said, since you've said so, then we have nothing to worry about. Yang Mi also came over from the side. Then I'll go and prepare some more food. Zhang Yi's situation had stabilized for now. At least they had basically grasped the movements of the zombie horde and confirmed the existence of something like a zombie king. In contrast, the other forces were faring much worse. The Radiant Prosperity base had been barely holding on each time thanks to Xiao Holian's fire attacks, and gradually, Xiao Holian also realized something was amiss. This relentless, continuous onslaught made Xiao Holian feel a deep unease. Each wave of zombies cost them dozens of soldiers, which they simply couldn't afford. Continuing this way, they would be forced to abandon the oil refinery and retreat into the underground shelters to evade the zombie waves. She also noticed that the zombies' tactics were evolving with each attack. Thinking this, Xiao Holian immediately decided to change her approach from passive to active. Zhuge Qingding's pupils shrank as she asked nervously, does the leader mean to take the initiative and attack the zombies' lair? Xiao Holian nodded and said, it's clear that someone is controlling these zombies, possibly a mutant or some other intelligent creature. In any case, we can't just sit here and wait to die. Zhuge Qingding frowned and asked, but it's really too dangerous. We don't know the full scale of the zombie horde, and rashly going to scout could be a one-way trip. Why not see what moves the other forces are making? Maybe they have a better strategy. Xiao Holian laughed. Considering the scale of these zombies, I'm sure the others are suffering too, especially those self-righteous folks at the Snow Worship sect. They've developed tens of thousands of followers, which is practically like gathering lunch for the zombies. Now we can only rely on ourselves. That's decided then. Let Donghu take 2 mutants and 30 elite troops to secretly scout out the zombies' lair first. At the same time, at the headquarters of the Snow Worship sect, Jing Yixian received a report from his subordinates stating that the death toll among the followers had reached over 1,000, and those bitten had the potential to mutate. The newly recruited followers' faith had been severely shaken, and they could no longer continue this way. Jing Yixian, with an expressionless face, calmly said, let them complain. I doubt they have the courage to take any substantive action. He then quietly told his subordinate, arrange for some reliable people to spread some news among the followers, saying that other forces are retreating step by step in the face of the zombie tide, with most of them severely wounded or even on the verge of collapse. Also say that almost all survivors outside have been bitten to death by zombies. Sticking together in the snow worship sect, there is at least a slim chance of survival. This way, they'll feel that their current life is not so bad. Gradually, they will understand that being able to join our snow worship sect is their honor. After hearing Jing Yixian's words, Wu Huan immediately exclaimed how brilliant it was. Without comparison, there is no harm. As long as they feel that the snow worship sect is the best refuge, they will gradually become more devout. Jing Yixian gave him a warning look, a meaningful smile appearing at the corner of his mouth. But we also need to intensify our indoctrination, making them follow our snow worship sect wholeheartedly. Wu Huan, excited, clapped his hands in approval. The high priest is truly wise. I'll arrange for someone to handle this right away. Meanwhile, Zhang Yi and his group had already arrived at the entrance of the subway tunnel, ready to enter the railway to find the mysterious zombie king. The four were armed to the teeth. Zhang Yi once again clarified the combat plan to the group. Our mission this time is to kill the zombie king. As long as we can find it, I'm 100% confident we can eliminate it. Of course, personal safety is the most important. Don't get entangled with the zombie horde, because killing more of them is pointless. Saying this, Zhang Yi threw a glow stick into the tunnel, then said to Uncle Yu, "Uncle Yu, you go down first." As the team member with the strongest defense, Uncle Yu didn't hesitate and jumped into the hole. After looking around inside the tunnel and seeing nothing unusual, he communicated via radio, "It's normal down here, you can come down." Zhang Yi and the others slid down into the cave, and the scene before them was chilling. The walls were covered with dark bloodstains, and there were even some dismembered organs on the ground. Fortunately, they were wearing tactical helmets. Otherwise, the smell here would have been unforgettable. As the group moved toward the subway, the dimly lit corridor gradually revealed numerous disjointed skeletons, likely gnawed upon by zombies. Zhang Yi, observing his surroundings cautiously, said, "It seems these zombies' only instinct is to feed, and they don't infect bodies that have already turned to bone." At that moment, Chunlei curiously said, "You can tell these guys have quite the appetite. But if all of Heavenly Sea City's corpses turned into zombies, that would be over 10 million zombies. What would they feed on then?" Hearing this, Zhang Yi stopped in his tracks. He had indeed not considered this issue. If the zombies ran out of food, what would they do? Would they spread out from Heavenly Sea City to other cities? Zhang Yi hesitated for a moment and said, "We can't manage that much anymore. We can only protect ourselves for now. After all, it's the apocalypse. Who has the leisure to worry about others?" The group continued their slow walk forward. Just then, Flower, leading the way, suddenly growled alertly. Instinctively, Zhang Yi and the others raised their guns, but before they could fire, a dark shadow flashed quickly in front of them. Before Zhang Yi could shoot, Lian Yu quickly threw a knife with lightning speed. With a ding, the knife struck the shadow. Upon closer inspection, everyone gasped. The knife had struck a massive rat. Chunlei was stunned. That rat is way too big, even several times larger than Flower in her normal state. Zhang Yi took a deep breath and said, "This must be a mutant rat. Normally, if rats have enough food, they can grow as large as cats, but the one we're seeing here is obviously excessively large, clearly a mutation." Thinking back to the gnawed corpses they had seen along the way, Zhang Yi suddenly realized the white bones we saw earlier were likely gnawed on by these types of rats. Hearing this, Chunlei's voice trembled. With so many corpses, there must be more than one rat, right? No sooner had he spoken than chewing sounds started coming from every corner. Zhang Yi said resignedly, "That's it then. It looks like we've walked into a rat's nest." Flower immediately issued a threatening cry, her fur puffing out. While cats have a natural dominance over rats, this advantage meant little against their overwhelming numbers. Suddenly, swarms of rats poured out from every corner like water. Zhang Yi and the others immediately took out flamethrowers and began spraying at the horde of rats. While this temporarily drove back the giant rats, they showed no signs of leaving but instead kept their distance in the shadows, ready to pounce again the moment the flames weakened. Shadows of rats filled the darkness. If this continued, forget searching for any zombie king. These rats alone would be enough to deplete us. Seeing this situation, Zhang Yi had no choice but to tell Chunlei and Uncle Yu to put away the flamethrowers. The moment the flamethrowers were withdrawn, the swarm of rats surged forward like a flood. Zhang Yi immediately opened a dimensional gate on each side of the tunnel, and the rats, one after another, plunged into the alternate space, none reaching the group. Lian Yu, shocked, watched Zhang Yi from behind and said, "Your dimensional gate got an upgrade?" Zhang Yi leisurely replied, "I've been exploring the mysteries of the dimensional gate recently. After the last big battle, I've managed to open 2 dimensional gates simultaneously." Lian Yu, in disbelief, said, "No wonder you're so confident about ensuring our safe return. In this kind of tunnel terrain, this is absolutely unbeatable. The remaining rats, seeing this, had no choice but to turn around quickly, and soon the swarm of rats disappeared without a trace. After repelling the rats, the group continued deeper. Zhang Yi began to worry. The noise made while fighting the rats was significant, and he wondered if the zombies might be alerted, and he also wasn't sure about the relationship between these rats and the zombies. Zhang Yi and the others didn't have time to ponder. They did not want to stay too long in this oppressive underground space. As they walked, they noticed large shadows moving in the darkness. On closer inspection, they realized that it was a large group of zombies. Uncle Yu whispered, "They seem to be sleeping." Zhang Yi then saw clearly that was indeed the case, which wasn't surprising. As hosts for the virus, their movements require significant energy. It made sense to conserve energy by sleeping when not commanded otherwise. Uncle Yu took out the flamethrower and said, "Should we take this opportunity to burn them all to ashes?" Zhang Yi looked at the sleeping zombies and suddenly recalled what Zhou Kir had said. She mentioned that these zombies still exhibit a sort of biological behavior, strictly speaking, more like an insect swarm. If they can stay asleep, then we have no reason to wake them. But just then, a sleeping zombie suddenly opened its crimson eyes, and more zombies gradually woke up, turning and lunging at Zhang Yi and the others. Zhang Yi immediately opened a dimensional gate, but strangely, after some of the zombies poured in, they seemed to receive some kind of order and abruptly stopped in their tracks. Zhang Yi said gravely, "It seems the zombie king has noticed us. If that's the case, then let's get on with it." Speaking, he instructed Uncle Yu and Chun Lei to aim the flamethrowers at the zombie horde. The narrow tunnel instantly turned into a sea of fire, the flames spreading rapidly, and soon hundreds of zombies were consumed by the fire. The zombies began to slowly retreat, moving out of the range of the flames. Zhang Yi cautiously said, "The zombie king should be not far ahead. Let's hurry and catch up." Faced with the roaring flames, the zombies could only retreat in fear. With the invincible defense of the dimensional gate, Zhang Yi led the group forward smoothly, with Flower and Liang Yu not even needing to take action. However, Liang Yu occasionally looked back and reminded, "Those rats haven't given up. They're still watching us from the shadows. Their numbers might well exceed those of the zombies." Zhang Yi said gravely, "Let's not worry about them for now. They probably won't dare to attack again. Our target is the zombie king." Still, Liang Yu expressed concern, "But there are just too many zombies. I'm afraid we won't reach the zombie king before it flees." Zhang Yi couldn't afford to think that much. "We're already here. If need be, we'll just have to fight a war of attrition." Gradually, it seemed the number of zombies was decreasing. Zhang Yi immediately ordered, "Increase the pace of the attack." Meanwhile, outside the Radiant Prosperity base in a subway tunnel, Dong Hu led a group of elites to gather intelligence. Just as they entered the subway, they too were attacked by giant rats. After a fierce 15-minute battle, they managed to drive the rats back, but they lost 8 soldiers to the mutant rats' deadly bites. Originally there to investigate the zombies, Dong Hu looked grim, having not seen a single zombie yet, but already suffering heavy losses. How is he supposed to explain this to Xiao Honglian? Dong Hu said solemnly, "Let's keep moving. Our goal is to investigate the horde, and we must overcome whatever difficulties we encounter until we obtain useful information." Dong Hu had no choice but to lead the remaining squad members forward, despite the challenges. They hadn't walked past one station when they also encountered a large group of sleeping zombies. Before they could even react, the scent of the living woke the zombie horde, and the entire tunnel was soon packed with zombies. Knowing they were no match, Dong Hu shouted, "Run, and don't look back." He knew they were there to collect information, not to die. The number of zombies far exceeded his expectations, and faced with the onslaught, they could only desperately flee. Dong Hu threw a powerful punch, releasing flames with his pyrokinetic ability as he struck, temporarily blocking the zombies. However, the horde was too vast, potentially tens or even hundreds of thousands strong, rushing toward them like a flood. The group couldn't help but feel a chill. Although they had mentally prepared, the reality was still shocking. Dong Hu had no choice but to fight while retreating, trying to buy time for the remaining soldiers to escape. Suddenly, a soldier with a flamethrower shouted, "What is that?" At that moment, a huge dark figure suddenly appeared in the midst of the zombie horde. It leapt over the zombies and roared at them with its head glowing blue. Then, with a swipe of its claws, 2 soldiers were cut in half. Dong Hu, in despair, said, "We're not going to make it today, are we?" Meanwhile, Zhang Yi and his group were pursuing the zombie horde and soon arrived at a new station. It appeared to be a transfer station, which explained why the horde had suddenly dispersed so quickly. They had spread to other tunnels. Chun Lei helplessly looked around, like a headless fly. Suddenly, Zhang Yi spoke up, "My gut tells me we're very close to the zombie king." Just as he finished speaking, a crunching sound echoed in the tunnel, as if something was stepping on corpses, slowly approaching them. Zhang Yi immediately alerted the group, "Get ready to fight, they're coming." Suddenly, a strange black shadow appeared in the tunnel, followed by a tall and thin creature resembling a giant stick insect, slowly approaching the group. It didn't resemble a human, but had a humanoid form. Its lower jaw and arms were covered in bronze armor, and its eyes glowed a ghostly green. Uncle Yu couldn't help but speak. Could this disgusting creature be the zombie king? Before anyone could answer his question, 3 more creatures of the same appearance appeared from 3 other directions. The 4 creatures looked almost exactly the same, and Zhang Yi couldn't help but speculate. These things must be mass-produced, not naturally born. Zhang Yi's heart raced. He immediately realized this was likely a huge conspiracy. They've been leading us here step by step with the aim to surround and annihilate us. Uncle Yu, looking tense, asked, "What do we do now?" Zhang Yi smirked and said, "At this point, we can only fight. We're not in the tunnel, so the dual-dimensional gates can't be utilized to their fullest. But even so, I'm not the least bit afraid, as we are all skilled fighters." He told the group, "Liang Yu and Flower, stay close to me. Don't stray too far. These creatures look extraordinary. We must stick together." At this point, Zhang Yi and his group had no choice but to fight with their backs against the wall. They were virtually trapped, with no escape routes available. Uncle Yu and Chun Lei, one in front and one behind, wielded their flamethrowers, blasting the zombie horde. This time, the zombies didn't retreat but charged at them like moths to a flame. As Zhang Yi had anticipated, they must have been following the Zombie King's command, devoid of fear or the instinct to avoid being burned. As Liang Yu swung her long sword, glowing like moonlight, her strength had greatly increased after absorbing the werewolf's abilities, making dealing with these zombies seem as easy as slicing vegetables. Suddenly, a bronze-armored zombie grabbed two other zombies and hurled them towards Zhang Yi. Seeing this, Zhang Yi calmly opened a dimensional gate, and the zombies were instantly sucked into the alternate space. Seeing this, the bronze-armored zombie charged furiously, and Chun Lei, terrified, shouted, "Boss, they're charging at us." Underground, Chun Lei's abilities could not be used, and he had to rely on his flamethrower to maintain combat effectiveness. Strangely enough, the intense heat of the flamethrower seemed to have no effect on the bronze-armored zombie. As the bronze-armored zombie closed in, Zhang Yi spread his arms wide, and suddenly two massive gates appeared, sealing the passage both front and back. However, it only blocked two directions, and zombies from other directions continued to charge fiercely. Uncle Yu, visibly angry, said, "These guys must be commanded by the Zombie King, but if we can't even kill the bronze-armored zombie, how can we kill the Zombie King?" Zhang Yi calmly said, "This is not the time to panic. The more critical the situation, the more we need to stay calm and observe carefully. My intuition tells me that the Zombie King is nearby." Hearing this, Uncle Yu roared and transformed into a towering figure over 2 meters tall, then charged at a bronze-armored zombie. At that moment, Liang Yu leaped high and swung a powerful sword strike, slicing a long cut across the zombie's chest before it could react, from which a soy sauce-colored viscous fluid slowly oozed. Both sides showed a hint of surprise. Liang Yu didn't expect that her full-force strike didn't cut the creature in half. It seemed only to have pierced its outer skin. Her full-force strike was powerful enough to split a tank. At that moment, Zhang Yi said to Flower nearby, "Flower, it's your turn to go in. Help Uncle Yu first." Zhang Yi then turned his attention to Liang Yu and shouted, "Liang Yu, be careful. Their defense is incredibly strong, but they are not invincible." Liang Yu quickly retreated upon hearing this. Divine might. The next second, the space around the bronze-armored zombie distorted. In just an instant, the upper body of the defensively formidable zombie was nearly obliterated, leaving only its legs standing on the ground. Chun Lei was initially stunned, then suddenly burst into arrogant laughter, grabbing the flamethrower and spraying wildly at the zombie horde, while laughing madly, "Watch me burn you all to death." Liang Yu was completely stunned by Zhang Yi's divine might and couldn't help but exclaim, "That move of yours is just too unbeatable. I reckon no one in all of Heavenly Sea City could withstand that strike of yours." Zhang Yi smiled lightly and said nonchalantly, "Just basic stuff." He then looked at Uncle Yu and said, "Now's not the time to relax. I suspect that after we've taken care of these bronze-armored zombies, the Zombie King will probably make an appearance. If we don't find and eliminate the Zombie King today, this mission will be considered a failure." Just then, a deep roar came from deep within the tunnel. Suddenly, heavy footsteps echoed through one of the passages, and then 3 bronze-armored zombies appeared before them again. Zhang Yi almost despaired. What's going on? How can so many of such powerful creatures be made? Zhang Yi's divine might was extremely taxing on his physical strength, and given his current stored energy, he estimated he could use it at most 5 times. Moreover, there was a significant cooldown time after each use. If the remaining 6 bronze-armored zombies charged at once, Zhang Yi and his group would have no chance of holding them off. Chun Lei's legs went weak in an instant. "This is it. My glorious life is probably coming to an end." Zhang Yi's expression grew even grimmer. The situation was worse than he had anticipated. The entity behind these zombies was also far beyond his expectations, and it might be too late to wrap things up. Zhang Yi shouted to Uncle Yu and Flower, "Quick, come over here." At his call, the man and the cat swiftly leaped back to Zhang Yi's side, and Zhang Yi also closed the dual-dimensional gates. At that critical moment, with no restraint from all directions, zombies with bared fangs lunged at them fiercely. Just in the nick of time, Zhang Yi opened a dimensional gate in front of everyone and told them, "Follow me into the alternate space." The group quickly vanished into the gateway, and by the time the zombie horde arrived, they met only air, filling the tunnel with eerie roars of frustration. On the snowy surface above the subway, a dimensional gate abruptly opened, and Zhang Yi and his companions stepped out from it. Zhang Yi, clutching his chest, said with a lingering fear, "That was terrifying." Liang Yu, curiously stepping forward, asked, Is this a new skill you've developed? Zhang Yi, somewhat shyly, responded, it's not really a new ability, just a new understanding of the dimensional gate. Previously, his understanding of the dimensional gate was rather basic, but when he managed to open 2 gates simultaneously, he had an epiphany about a completely new way to use them, to transform the 2 gates into a passageway through space. He can now traverse distances up to 300 meters. This is why he was so confident this time to venture into the unknown depths of the subway tunnel. Chunlei, whose legs had gone weak from fright, merely wet himself and said with relief, "Boss, why didn't you mention this skill earlier? I really thought I was a goner just now."